Leaders of Tomorrow, India's only daily television platform for small businesses. We bring you the right information to empower you, the SME entrepreneur. Tonight on the show, a very special conversation with the global CEO of Allianz Assistance. Sylvie is also the regional CEO-APAC of Allianz Partners. I spoke to her about all things insurance, about how technology is really changing this industry and the role that innovation plays and why businesses should definitely be innovating in this industry. Take a listen. Sylvie, thank you very much for joining us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow, on the crux, on this very special interview. Sylvie, let me start by talking about the big picture when it comes to the insurance market. Even as the global insurance market is changing and you're seeing so many changes coming about, even in a country like India, my question to you really is about how technology is transforming your industry and perhaps some of the biggest changes that you're seeing because of the use of technology.
So the insurance sector is heavily impacted by digitalization, notably in the fact that it's creating transparency. So people talk about the notion of risk of one. You can now know very well how people individually behave, how much they drive, when, where, when they sleep, what they eat, and so on and so forth, which everybody thought was always the dream of insurance companies, which is to some extent a bit true, that it's good to have information about our beneficiaries, but it's also opening up the possibility for big data players to price the risk, to assess the risk. And if you think of insurance, historically, it was all about using statistical models based on indirect criteria to assess a risk on a cohort, on a group of people in average, and be able to price that risk. So it's fundamentally changing. One core element of insurance is digitalization, which is this notion of assessing a risk. It's creating also for regulators a big challenge, which is how to keep sharing across a population between people who have a higher risk than others and keeping the spirit of insurance when you could be very, very targeted and individual. So how individual should you go and how much can you still afford insuring people who have a bad risk, so a higher likelihood to have issues than people who are a good risk in a world where everything is so transparent. So it's indeed questioning a very fundamental element of insurance, this transparency introduced by new technologies.
So speaking of digitization, Sylvie, my question really is, what perhaps are some of the biggest products or some of the more exciting ones that you've seen that have come about, particularly given the rapid digitization that we've seen?
On top of creating this transparency, new technologies and digitalization is also enabling us to interact directly with the consumers, which brings a lot of other aspects. One aspect is definitely that you can shape and influence the risk, drive prevention programs, give feedback, and improve the risk profile. Also provide not only financial compensation, but services to add value in a more personalized way to consumers. So for instance, I am leading Allianz Partners, which is the B2B2C service company, providing insurance and services via business partners. And one example is we provide roadside assistance or extended warranty or emergency calls and emergency support to drivers on behalf of their insurance company or on behalf of their car manufacturer. And so with the new connectivity, we can allow drivers to send an alert. We can be alerted they've got a problem. We can geolocalize them automatically, geolocalize the closest rescue car or tow truck, send it, and allow the driver to see the truck or the rescue car coming on an app or a link a la Ola, so that they are reassured, they see assistance is on the way, and they have transparency on the process. And also the whole process is much more efficient and fast. And what's interesting is, even in a connected world, people expect to speak to individuals. So our contact center person spend less time dealing with administrative questions to identify the consumer or identify the address at which the consumer is requesting support or assistance. And they spend more time reassuring people and having more the human touch, let's say, that we like to have in our services, which are high-tech but also high-touch, to make sure people feel good and they go through stressful moments in a comfortable way, or an as comfortable as possible way. So technology is also unlocking a new way to actually serve consumers in a more efficient way.
Sylvie, in a country like India and here in the domestic market, the insurance space is getting very competitive. My question to you really is to look at the big picture when it comes to digitization and really using the kind of data and the big data that exists to be able to really analyze customers, to be able to analyze the industry better. How's that being done? How perhaps are you doing that? Your advice for someone watching this interview on what changes you're expecting to see when it comes to analyzing and using big data in the insurance space.
So big data are definitely something companies have been dealing with in the insurance industry for a very, very long time to assess the risk. Now we've got more and more transparency, so we can be definitely more and more accurate. This data ocean is also enabling us to provide more spots, more accurate and tailored and narrow insurance products to consumers when they need it, where they need it. So for instance, people who travel can just buy insurance for the day when they travel. People who want to insure their mobile phone can, via some of our business partners, insure mobile phones on a weekly basis, just having those micro slices, I would say, of insurance and assistance on a pay-per-use and ad hoc basis. Also, going into this world of more flexible insurance, we see more and more peer-to-peer car sharing or fleet car sharing or car rental, people not owning a car or driving their own car but having more flexible mobility solutions. And the new connectivity and the new access to more data is enabling us to tailor insurance and assistance products for those car sharing situations or new mobility situations, which are of course different from insuring for the full year one vehicle which belongs to one person and which is driven by one person. So we are adapting, I would say, to the new way people consume, and technology is helping us doing so.
I want to talk about the role of social media when it comes to buying insurance and the insurance industry. Sylvie, that's perhaps not something that we would have been discussing had this interview happened a few years earlier. But social media, I understand, is increasingly becoming an important factor when people are buying insurance. How is it really changing the industry? How do you see perhaps social media being used, and how would you expect for people who are buying policies to be aware really of how social media is being used, and how is that really changing the dynamics in the industry?
So one interesting thing is we as Allianz Partners are interacting with our consumers via business partners. So we provide roadside assistance via car manufacturers and car insurers. We provide travel assistance and insurance via travel agencies, airlines, as natural channels. We provide health insurance for people studying abroad or working abroad. And we provide home emergency services, repair services, alerting services via home insurance type of packages, via also the new Alexas and Google Home and the new digital assistants you have at home. And we see those business partners are now diversifying. Some of them are new economy players. It can be new banks, like Revolut, like N26, new mobile payment solutions. It can be GPS players like Waze in Europe. It can be platforms to service cars like Deutsche Bank in China. And via those new digital champions, it can be eBay for e-commerce platforms, or Alibaba or Lazada, whom are all our clients. It can be also consumer electronic giants like Huawei or Samsung, whom we are servicing. And so via those new business partners, often under their brand, on a white label way without appearing, we are reaching to consumers differently wherever they are in a very mobile way in the context of them using digital devices or using those e-commerce platforms or applications, which allow us to be very targeted in the offerings we sell to them, or also, much more important, in the services we provide to them.
Even as the insurance industry is changing so rapidly, Sylvie, how important is transparency? And how often does that perhaps come up in conversations? And what is your advice for someone watching this interview about why it's so important?
One big challenge is, at the end of the day, when people buy an insurance, even if we try to be as clear, as simple, as understandable as possible, they sign a pretty complicated legal paper, a contract. They hand over money and they hope to get that money back when they need it. So what we think is it's very important, of course, to have fair and transparent products. It's also very important to be there at the moment of truth when a claims happen, when consumers need a hand, need a help. Of course, with financial compensation, but not only. also with services which enable people navigating difficult situations. When it comes, for instance, to new risks around the digital life of people, we at Allianz Partners, together with Bajaj Allianz, our joint venture in India, are proposing a solution for digital risk, for cyber life, which is providing financial compensation in case of identity theft, in case of fraud, in case of data loss, dispute with an e-commerce player, with a merchant at the other end of the world, in case of all of what can happen with your digital life, digital identity. But it's not only a matter of financial compensation, it's even more a matter of what to do in those situations which are quite new and quite stressful. So we provide technical support to close your email account which was hacked, to restore data, to amend your digital profile on Facebook, which was compromised, for instance, to search the dark web to understand to which extent your data were leaked. We provide legal support to know how to file a claim against people who actually acted wrong against you. And also we provide psychological support, for instance, in case of teenagers being bullied online, which, as we know, can have very serious consequences if not properly handled. So it's not only about handing over money, it's really much more about supporting in a holistic way with technical support, with legal support, with psychological support, consumers at the moment of truth when they are facing stressful situations.
Time for a quick break, but we'll continue bringing you the highlights of this very special conversation, much more when we come back after the short break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight on The Crux, highlights of a very special conversation on how the insurance space is changing both here in India as well as globally, and what businesses should keep in mind. In the last 1 decade, Sylvie, I understand from being object-centric, insurance policies are now increasingly moving to consumer-centric. How do you ensure that at a company which is of the size that you are, you're really staying abreast of all of these changes that are happening? How are you adapting your own policies to this consumer-centric approach?
A new trend is definitely people are less attached to owning things and more attached to having solutions, to having mobility solutions, to having tourism solutions, instead of owning, a specific possession or asset like a car. And so to that extent, our solutions are still addressing specific objects or situations. So we have car insurance and car assistance, we have home insurance and home assistance, we have travel insurance and travel assistance. But more important than that, we bring all that as consumer-centric solutions. So for instance, you can have on your mobile phone a panic button and a specific way to shake the phone, which then allows us, because you gave your consent, the consumer gave his or her consent for us to activate the mic and the camera in case this alert is triggered, so that we can assess the situation and we can organize the proper intervention, the proper rescue to support the consumer in case of a health problem, in case of an attack, in case of any adverse event which he or she could be facing around the world, at home, driving his or her car, having an accident, when traveling, in whatever situation. And the new connection we have via the mobile phone is really enabling us to have this guardian angel notion, which is a comprehensive cover, not attached to a specific situation or a specific object, but really protecting the consumer throughout his life. It's notably a solution that in India is distributed by Bajaj Allianz to young kids going to school, to give peace of mind to parents, but also to really significantly increase safety and security of the youngest.
Vehicle or motor insurance, I understand, still dominates a large part of the insurance industry, and with the popularity really of e-vehicles, I want to understand from you really whether this is impacting existing motor vehicle and motor insurance policies?
So more and more electric cars are, of course, gaining market shares, and they are the future of mobility. What's interesting is electric cars are not happening alone. They're happening in the same time as connected cars. shared vehicles and more autonomous driving or supported driving. So the combination of the three is critical to understand the new mobility profile. But when you come specifically to electric cars, we are working on launching specific assistance services around, of course, charging the battery properly. So helping clients via contact centers dealing with the charging challenges they may have at the beginning, assessing and managing the residual battery value. A lot of the car value sits in the battery, so charging it correctly is critical to protect the car value. Providing electric assistance on the roadside in case of flat battery, but in case also of any specific intervention the car may need. And of course, electric vehicles must be handled with specific care and specific protocols as compared to classic cars. So definitely serving electric vehicles is something we are doing and we will be doing more and more in the future.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but one would presume that travel insurance is still very niche when it comes to an industry segment or a revenue generator. But I understand it is growing rapidly. How are you tapping into that? What sort of the trend you're perhaps seeing there that you can sort of give an insight to as far as the viewers are concerned?
Definitely, we are seeing more and more the Indian middle class traveling and developing. So our products are very much fitting to this population, this segment, when it comes to products around cars, products around travels, travel insurance, travel assistance, also services at destination, helping travelers to get the support they need when they reach the point to which they are traveling. When it comes to Indians studying abroad, we are supporting students with health assistance, alerting system, coaching services, psychological support services, telemedicine, teleconsultation at destination when they study abroad. So a lot of our products are actually, let's say, supporting or accompanying, I would say, the Indian middle class development. And of course, we are extremely present on any digital topics, so anything which is related to digital life and to mobile phone, mobile devices, and all the connected behaviors and associated risks is something we support. And part of this development of Indian behaviors and Indian consumption behaviors are definitely dealing with the digital world, which is a sphere where we provide numerous services and insurances.
Consumers are increasingly expecting much more from their insurance companies, Sylvie, including, say, cashless hospitalization, for instance. Do you think it's essential for companies like yourself? Do you think it's essential for smaller companies in a very crowded, competitive market to add these, these sort of add-ons or benefits really as USPs?
So if you would summarize insurance, I think insurance has the reputation of being a pretty conservative industry. I think insurance is facing massive changes on its traditional ecosystems, and notably the car ecosystem. Still, the majority of private insurance, P&C insurance, is motor insurance, and with the new connected autonomous shared electric vehicles, it's a big tsunami which is challenging the mobility ecosystem, and we are part of this challenge. So I think insurance is really adapting very fast to be more consumer-centric, more service-oriented, more connected, more real-time, and more focusing on prevention and services, and less focusing on financial settlement of issues when they happen.
Sylvie, while this has been a fascinating conversation, we're running out of time, so I'm very quickly going to ask you one question before I let you go. What next for you? What can you sort of leave us with in terms of your future plans?
So India is a very important market for Allianz Partners and for Allianz because of the size, the growth, and also the digitalization of that market, the appetite for innovation. So we are strong in the motor space together with Bajaj Allianz, but also with other business partners, other insurance companies and car manufacturers, for instance. We distribute roadside assistance, extended warranty, and a lot of motor-centric packages. Cars are going to evolve, mobility is evolving, electric cars, connected cars, also shared and more autonomous vehicles. So here in that space, we will continue to expand with digital RSA, so all digital solutions to geolocalize the car, to geolocalize the truck, to provide remote services. Also providing advices to drivers, such as the safest GPS road, where and when to drive to avoid the most dangerous places for accidents, for instance. So also preventive maintenance, having alerts, which we already did today, in case of low battery to avoid the breakdown and to recharge the battery before getting out of power. So the car ecosystem is going to generate more and more innovation and more innovation around electric and connected cars, for instance. That's something we will continue to build on definitely. Then the other ecosystems we are penetrating very strongly since 1 or 2 years are the home, with home assistance, emergency services, repair services, elderly at home, alerting services for elderly people staying at homes, for instance. The healthcare space with providing health insurance to people in India and when they travel, work or study abroad, as well as health services, enabling people to go back home after hospital faster, get nurse services at home, get also convenience services such as shopping, for instance, to be sure they can comfortably go back home earlier and be able to live on a day-to-day basis while they are recovering. And the last growth pillar is definitely digital devices and digital life, covering all what can happen in the cyber life of consumers and around their digital devices. Historically, our value proposition is to keep people always mobile, so to give them mobility solutions, continuity solutions with their car, always on the go, to give them continuity solutions if something happens during their travel. They lose a luggage, they miss a connection, they have a physical accident or they get sick during their travel. The last component we are adding today is really keeping them always connected, making sure they can safely live their digital life from a device standpoint, from a cyber life standpoint, because now being connected is even more important than having your car up and running. What you can't afford having is having your phone disconnected.
Sylvie, thank you very much for your time here on this special conversation.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, completely out of time on this special episode. If you have any feedback for us, or if you are an insurance player and you want some more insights and tips, here's how you let us know. Email us at leadersoftomorrowtimesgroup.com. You can also get in touch with us on social media. Tweet at me directly at Sunanda_J or LOT_ET Now. Our Facebook page where you can get in touch is Leaders of Tomorrow on ET Now. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.